the science that I see and that many others see, it's not just me, in terms of the health effects, is there. It's been there for years. The science is all there since the 1968, at least. So it's the political will that isn't. Come on, in the 1940s, we knew that asbestos was bad and was, especially in submarine workers and in the military, we knew asbestos was bad, but there was no economically viable alternative, right? So we kept on going until an economically viable alternative emerged. And now asbestos is really bad. Let's sue everybody that was involved.
On Saturday night, we went to a community meeting in Crookwell in New South Wales and heard from a number of scientific and environmental experts talking about the impact of wind power plants on humans, on animals, and on the environment.
3, 2, 1.
So while there was no anti-renewable sentiment in the hall on Saturday night, people were presenting with health issues while others were worried about planned projects being built on their doorstep. And we didn't run into anybody there that was anti-renewables.
No.
They just didn't want towers built within a kilometre of their home, mate.
Which seems pretty much fair enough, right?
Absolutely.
Would you want one a mile and a half from your place?
Nope.
No.
One of the experts that talked was Dr. Mariana Alves Pereira, a highly qualified scientist that has worked for the Portuguese Air Force and assisted NASA in their development of infrasound proofing of US jets and space modules. It's fair to say she knew what she was talking about.
She obviously knows what she's talking about, yeah. We've got a real professional here.
We do. She gave a long and detailed presentation. We've trimmed it down to about 25 minutes from over an hour. If you wish to see her whole presentation, it's actually on Cheryl's YouTube channel, so I've left a link in the description. So without further ado, here's Dr. Mariana Alves Pereira.
So my academic qualifications are that I hold a bachelor's in physics from the State University of New York at Stony Brook. I hold a master's in biomedical engineering from Drexel University in Philadelphia. And I hold a PhD in environmental sciences from Nova University in Lisbon. That sounds like very, if you think about it, this is the perfect array of academic qualifications to study physical phenomenon. So I could be studying electromagnetic radiation with the same physics, biomedical, and environmental. But I actually began in 1989 when I started translating. I became a technical translator within the Portuguese Air Force. And so I started working with in an Air Force base, aeronautical environment. They did rehab and maintenance for military aircraft. So I hooked up with the medical team that was investigating the health of these aeronautical workers. So I began translating their abstracts into English. I already had a technical background, obviously, or else I wouldn't be a technical translator. And I became extremely interested in this topic. I was, with a physics background. I knew a little bit about acoustics and waves, and this was fascinating to me to think about how an airborne pressure wave interacts with biological tissue. Now, yes, we all model humans as solids. We're not solids. We're very far away from being a solid, okay? We're viscoelastic, okay? So it's not even only elastic either. It's like a plasma, like a gel, more than a solid. And in 2007 comes the wind turbines. And, and it's been wind turbines ever since. And we're all kind of tired of these wind turbines. We know they're not good for the health. I'm just going to jump ahead because I've been talking for a while, so I don't think I need any more introductions and all of this. As Professor Matheson correctly pointed out, there is a very close association with electromagnetic spectrum and acoustic spectrum. And usually the layperson is more familiar with the electromagnetic spectrum. And just with the electromagnetic spectrum, there is a small window where we can see. And the thing is that outside of that window, look at what we do to the electromagnetic spectrum. We segment it, right? gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet, infrared. The UV is even further segmented into ultraviolet A, B, and C. That's how segmented we do the electromagnetic spectrum. Now look at the acoustic spectrum. Look how we segment that. It's just like 3 big chunks, right? Ultrasound, audible, and infrasound. There's no segmentation. It wreaks havoc on health studies because a 2 hertz can affect you in one way, a 5 hertz can affect you in a different way, and a 10 hertz in a different way. So if we're putting everything in the same bag, this is very, very difficult for health studies. Now, when we're studying waves, any type of waves, but okay, here acoustics, there are 2 parameters that are fundamental, which is the amplitude, how high does it go, how many dBs does it have, and the frequency. So noise or sound or airborne pressure waves, physically, it's a force. It acts as a force on your body. Were that not true, we wouldn't hear, right? Because what does sound do to the ear? It moves the hair cells. It's acting as a force on the structure, on the biological structure. So, whenever we think of noise, we should think about a pressure wave. It's a force that impacts your body. Now, this force is varying in time, it's varying in amplitude, and it's varying in frequency. Great. That's just what a scientist wants to hear, right? Something that's varying in all parameters possible. This is difficult to study. So frequency. Now, frequency has to do with the distance between the peaks of the wave. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you see the higher frequency. See that distance between the peaks? It's smaller than the lower frequency where the distance is very high, very large. So because of this difference, among other things, when you have high frequency, it does not penetrate the ground. It does not penetrate structures. But when you have this low frequency with this large wavelength, the distance between the peaks is called the wavelength. When you have this, then it can penetrate into buildings and into the ground. So we hear in wavelengths that are small, in the order of centimeters. When we go down to 20 hertz, which is classically considered the limit of our hearing threshold, at 20 hertz, that wavelength is 17 meters. So one of the problems with acoustics is that rule of thumb is the barrier of the acoustic barrier has to be in the order of the wavelength. So, okay, triple glazed windows, that's great. That's going to stop every wave that has the wavelength in centimeters, which is what we hear. But 17 meters and at 1 hertz, it's 343 meters. So acoustic barriers of that thickness is not viable. And hence, one of the reasons why infrasound is so problematic and low frequency noise as well. This is a study that was done in 2020. And so we placed our equipment inside the home of people that were complaining about wind turbines. Their noise, they couldn't sleep. Not pretty. During the time the equipment was in the house, the people were asked to keep a diary so that eventually we could try to marry what people were feeling and when with what was in the acoustic environment so we could marry them. I have to say this. You cannot see what is happening on the computer screen of our equipment. So it's not like these residents could just sit in front of the computer screen and write down, let's see yes, now we feel bad. They can't do that. You don't see anything on the computer screen. So what we found was that on 22 July, at 4 a.m., they were sleeping fine. But then on 29 July at 3:20 a.m., they couldn't sleep. And one of them had to take medication. So look at this. What is the difference between these two environments according to the methodology that legislation imposes on scientists? There's none. There's none. And what is the common conclusion among uninformed researchers? Oh, they're inventing. They can't be. There's no difference, not even without the DBA. So, what are they inventing? Now, remember, these two figures that I'm showing you, this is with the resolution of 1/3 octave band, meaning 3 data points per octave. Now, we've increased that resolution to 36 data points per octave. And look at what we found. For the layperson, this is like going from the magnifying glass to a microscope, right? What we couldn't see with the magnifying glass, there's nothing there. They have to be inventing, oops, now it's there with the microscope. And you see those peaks? This is now what we call the wind turbine acoustic signature. This is what is keeping people from sleeping. No, you're told can't be. This is below 20 hertz, right? And you can see it's below 20 hertz. So it's inaudible. So what you can't hear won't hurt you. So no, this cannot be. And this is the difficulty that most health researchers have. They're still stuck in the idea that a DBA measurement will differentiate between two acoustic environments, and it won't. Not in this spectrum, not in the lower frequencies. So also by increasing, this is called increasing the spectral resolution, so from 3 data points to 36 per octave, we also increased the time resolution. So what you're seeing here is on the x-axis is 600 seconds. It's 10 minutes. We can now see what happens second by second in this environment. We no longer have to have 10-minute averages. Okay, and it's second by second, and on the y-axis you have 136 octaves, so 36 segmentations per octave, so 36 data points per octave. So this is why they couldn't sleep. They're not inventing. Why would you invent that? And so, hot off the press in the same house, just now in March, we had the court-mandated stoppages of the wind power plant. And so we could see those peaks on the left side of your screen. Those were there. Those are the peaks that correspond to the wind turbine acoustic signature that I showed you. And they just disappeared when the wind power plant was stopped. So if there was any question that this was coming from wind turbine, it's not. There's finishes that question. So again, this is why people can't sleep around wind turbines. What was the mantra again? Oh, that's right. If you can't hear it, it won't harm you. What? It'll just stop you from sleeping. Is that it? So you see, these mantras, it becomes more serious, these mantras that they feed you, when you find out what I'm next going to tell you. 1968. Oh, they knew that infrasound could affect the organism both psychologically and physiologically. Oh, wait, they knew that at the 3 to 15 hertz is where it's worse. That 1968, really, this was known. Well, this is out of a military report, so maybe it wasn't known exactly in 1968, but somebody knew. So 1960s and 70s, they're studying the effects of infrasound and low frequency within the Apollo space program. They're also studying it within the Soviet Union space program. And in 1973, organized by the National Center of Research of France, They organized a whole symposium on infrasound. Really? Nobody knows about this. Really. In still the 1970s, these are two of my favorite studies. They're so interesting. Under OSHA, Alexander Cohen studied the effect of hearing protectors, but not on the hearing. He went to study the effect of hearing protectors among factory workers on body effects, on body symptoms. And his conclusions, this is over a 2-year period, his conclusions are fascinating. He said, yes, hearing protectors are great for the hearing, but the body complaints did not reduce. And in fact, in some parameters, they increased. So the second study, also in 1970s, came out of France. And look, they're using genetically deaf mice, okay? They're genetically deaf. And you put them in an infrasound environment and their performance decreases. And you put them in an audible noise environment and the genetically deaf mice performance does not decrease. With auditory, normal hearing mice, if you put them in infrasound or in audible sound, in both situations, their performance decreases. So you see, there's much more going on here than just the perception or, the hearing of it, if you do or if you don't, and stuff like this. Much more going on. In Russia, since at least the 2000s, they have legislation against infrasound. And I want to point out, look at them segmenting it. 2 hertz, 4 hertz, 8 hertz. They segment it. And you don't see a dBA on this table. And also, I'd like to point out, if you look to the left, they're legislating not only for workers, but also for the general public, for public areas and living quarters. This is very interesting that they would have. This is the only country I know of. I don't know what China is doing, for example, but this is the only country I know that has infrasound legislated. Vibroacoustic disease nowadays is like a taboo subject. A lot of people are allergic to it, and I substituted the name to infrasound-induced pathology or infrasound low-frequency noise-induced pathology. It just tickles a lot of people, and I try to avoid it. However, I think it's interesting to see the evolution. Now, this is in workers. Exposure time is from 9 to 5, weekends, and after 9 to 5 and weekends, they're at home. So recovery period exists and is significant. And this is how they developed the clinical stages as per years of occupational activity. And now here's another issue with the health sciences, right? They'll go and do a study like this and they'll do it by age. No. This is not by age. This is by exposure time. When you're dealing with physical agents of disease, you have to take exposure time, cumulative and prior exposure time, into consideration. Now, what we see in residential residences that are contaminated with infrasound is, whether it's wind turbines or not, what we see as all this evolution of symptoms is accelerated. So it doesn't take 1 to 4 years for them to start developing the bronchitis, the mood swings, the indigestion. No, it takes about a year. And then it doesn't take 4 to 10 years to get the, inflammation of the stomach lining, chest pain back. No, it doesn't take that long if you're living in it. So I just wanted to show you that this is how it goes. We've seen it time and time again, not in an aeronautical workers, but in people that live in contaminated homes. This is our Portuguese case. So this is our first wind turbine case of the group. We presented this in the Wind Turbine Noise Conference in 2007. This case went all the way up to the Supreme Court in Portugal, and those 4 wind turbines were in fact taken down. But you see, between 2007 and 2013, they put up more wind turbines. And the court case was only for those 4. So the man won the battle, but lost the war. So as you can see, this is still the old way of measuring noise. It only goes down to 6.3 hertz. And this is at the same wind speed. So residual, the red is when the wind turbines were off, and the black and the gray is when they were on during the night and the daytime at the same wind speed. So you can see there is a clear difference. And of course, none of this is in dBAs. This is Germany. Germany has, these are all the old wind turbines, so the smaller ones. So they have the wind turbines surrounding them sort of from the east and from the south of their home. They have a little lake on the right. This German case was then published as well. You can see on the top left, this is the bedroom that they had to abandon. Their business is in their home. So they can't just like up and leave. It's not an easy thing for them. So instead, they built what we call the bunker bedroom. So they had these stairs come down from the kitchen, and on the right, you see their bunker bedroom. And I asked them, is it better? Look, if bunker bedrooms are the solution, well, fine. Maybe the government can subsidize bunker bedrooms. I don't know. And they answered, and I quote them, "Oh, it's much better, except when the winds are from the east. Then we get the diarrheas." I'm quoting. This is a diary of a person who lives under wind turbines in Scotland. And as you can see, what she did is she put the dates of when she felt these symptoms. And I pulls up a close-up for you to see. So on July 4th, she didn't sleep well. And then from July 5th through the 9th, continuously, she has pain in the ears. Then on top of the pain in the ears, on the 6th, she gets nauseated. And on the 7th, she has vertigo, dizziness. So this is a diary of a person living under wind turbines in Scotland. The last thing I'd like to discuss with you guys is this idea of nocebo effect. Now, the people who have come up with this idea, most of them are not medically trained, if any of them. And look, you can't really blame them, right? Remember that slide I showed you where there were both, the DBAs were practically the same. And in one side, they're sleeping, and on the other side, they're not. Remember that? How can you blame the uninformed researcher for assuming that it's in their heads? It has to be. Look, there's no difference in the DBAs, and one is complaining and the other is not. It has to be in their heads, right? So we have already shown that it's not in their heads. There's something called the acoustic signature. There's something that they can't sleep. I don't care if it's what you can't hear, can't hurt you. I don't care about that. They can't sleep in the presence of the acoustic signatures, right? So we've shown that. Even if we hadn't had all this data to show you, right? Nocebo effect, really? Well, what about the animals, right? Are they suffering from some psychosomatic nocebo effect because they're not getting money from the wind industry, because they're annoyed? Is that it? Is that why the cows are having all these problems? In Poland, they studied geese, and they also studied the pigs. What they're all having these problems. You know, geese and pigs are two different families of animals. But then you have frogs in Japan. So now you have 3 families of animals that are being affected by wind power plants or by the acoustic emissions of wind power plants. Nocebo, so they all have psychosomatic things going on in their brains, which is making them sick. Is that it? Please.
The townships where there was wind turbines placed had a 68% rate of heart attacks and heart disease in comparison to 21% in non-host areas.
Well, that can't be surprising to anybody, since the study of Professor Wahl in Germany, who showed that 16 hertz directly applied to the muscle. This is not annoyance. This is not even going through the human. It's directly applied to the muscle tissue, yielded a reduction of the contraction power of the muscle. Direct application of 16 hertz. So, this is not surprising. It's just sad that nobody's doing anything. The powers that be. I mean, you see, as I've said before many times, in my opinion, this is my opinion, the science is there. The science is all there since the 1968, at least. So it's the political will that isn't. And as I've said many times before, even though I've been urged to do so, I do not get involved in the political arena because this is not my thing. I'm a scientist. I don't care. I mean, I do in that, but there's nothing that I could, as a scientist, I mean, I have to become a politician to actually do things. They'll probably kill me before I even get to a position where I could do something. So I stay with the science, and the science that I see and that many others see, it's not just me, in terms of the health effects, is there. It's been there for years. It's, and you can't, you always have to go back to what happened with asbestos, right? Come on. In the 1940s, we knew that asbestos was bad, and was especially in submarine workers and in the military. We knew asbestos was bad, but there was no economically viable alternative, right? So we kept on going until an economically viable alternative emerged. And now asbestos is really bad. Let's sue everybody that was involved. Human nature, I suppose.
So she was an eye-opener for all of us, and we'd seen a little bit of her work in another video, but it was good to hear her just talk for that length of time on relevant issues for us.
So knowledgeable.
Oh, incredible, mate. So as far as Mariana is concerned, there's no doubt some humans are impacted by infrasound. She studied these impacts for 35 years and has seen thousands of cases firsthand. She's in no doubt that the impacts are real. She saw it in the Air Force on pilots. Even when they got to go home at night and then come back the next day, they were still impacted.
The thing is, they're not going to spend all that money for the cockpits of these pilots to try and help them if it wasn't an issue.
Correct.
It's kind of obvious.
Exactly right. And Mariana references dBA as the measurement of infrasound, and in Australia, dBG is quite commonly used. So I emailed her today and got some feedback on her thoughts on dBG, and she believes dBG is a waste of time. Yeah, which is what we heard Ken Matson say in his presentation a few weeks ago as well. Yeah, not an accurate measure of infrasound at all, as inaccurate as dBA.
Yeah.
Waste of time. So her analogy with asbestos was bang on, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
It is.
Yeah.
We knew it was hurting people, but for 40 years...
They just kept going with it until they found something better.
Yeah, until something else could viably replace it and they could make a profit. And then governments cracked down on it?
Yeah. And then you can't go in a house if there's a tiny little bit of asbestos.
You have to get rid of it.
People were living in the middle of it.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely insane, mate. It is a great analogy, probably one of the better ones I've heard. Yeah, are we going to allow these with wind farms to continue 40 years? We're not saying that they're killing people like asbestos did, but they do impact on people's mental health and well-being. So it shows that science is only as good as the depth in which it is prepared to be studied. And it also shows the same science can be used to prove different things, right? Because there are scientists that say it doesn't hurt, but they don't explore it as deeply as Mariana did, where she looked at, instead of 3 parts per octave, was it? Yeah, where she looked far more deeply. And she used the analogy of, I'm using a magnifying glass, now I'm going to use a microscope to really look at what effect there is. And while I'm from the outside looking in, it looks like there's no effect. There's no reason why people shouldn't be sleeping tonight compared to last night, because it's the same. But when you look inside and you see the peaks and troughs, it makes a big
see it
difference.
for what it really is, rather than...
Right. Yeah, no wonder they couldn't sleep on that night. And the only thing that could be causing that is infrasound, because everything else is identical.
Yeah.
What I don't get is this, mate. If there's any chance of it being impactful on humans, why aren't they?
Because they don't give a shit, mate.
Yeah.
It's all about it's all about the push, mate. They want to get this out there as quickly and as deliberately as they can. And we didn't realize it caused damage to people. We never realized that it was hurting people mentally and physically. Oh, if we had known that, it's too late though. It's already there. Don't you think?
Well, it's coming up 20 years that she has known that wind towers have been harmful to humans.
20 years.
20 years. And we're charging ahead.
Push ahead regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no doubt that sooner or later they'll find out that phones have a bigger impact to people's health than we're being told. I mean, it has things written very small, or you have to go looking for it, saying you shouldn't have your phone closer than 15 mil or 5 mil to your body any one time. And where do you think it is when you're talking to people on the phone with your ear right next to it? It's like, they don't like come out and say, oh yeah, be very, very careful with this. This could impact your health.
Yeah.
Because that'd be detrimental to the sales reputation of phone companies.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd be like, oh, it's detrimental to my health. Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, it's absolutely shocking. So I hope you enjoyed that. It was a bit of a long one. But if you want to go and see the full presentation, you can do that on Cheryl's YouTube channel. And it is worth it because there's a fair bit we had to cut out to keep it to our sort of time limits.
That was a real eye-opener.
It was fantastic, as were all of the presentations.
Yeah.
So we've got a fair bit more coming. Yeah. Once we get Steve's presentation through, that was a real eye.
That was a ripper. Yeah.
Exactly right. All right, everyone, let us know what you think.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
See ya.